CCSD says they could save up to $34 million in the first year and up to $79 million annually within 5 years through operational efficiencies. That's according to a new study commissioned by Superintendent Joan Ebert.
We want to make sure that every single dollar that we have within the Clark County School District is best used to support our children.
Ebert says the report includes recommendations in 6 key areas the district will evaluate case by case for feasibility. One focus is software and licensing, including a software asset management program to better track purchases. The district says that could save $700,000 next school year and nearly $12 million by 2030. Another major recommendation is transportation. The study says routes based on the total number of eligible students can lead to empty seats when families choose other ways to get to school. CCSD could implement an opt-in system in 2027 to serve students who need bus service. The study also says the district has been providing more expensive special education routes to some students who could ride with their peers, changes that could save $9 million after implementation and $18 million by 2030. District leaders say these changes matter as enrollment declines and funding tightens. So the goal is to run leaner and reinvest savings back into schools. Deputy Superintendent Jesse Welsh says savings could go toward programs designed to keep students in school.
Specifically when we think of some of the recommendations like with Acceleration Academy, I would imagine with some of those resources that we save that we would actually be able to put that directly back into schools to help support meeting the needs of those students who are at risk of perhaps dropping out and be able to put those interventions in place at the school level.
That was Sophia Bruinsma reporting. Other areas highlighted include preventative HVAC maintenance, lower cost construction standards, and educational efficiency. Recommendations include strengthening implementation of high-quality instruction in literacy and mathematics. CCSD says it will provide regular updates to the Board of Trustees on implementation of the report.